must be delighted with the reaction to the film so far, and that it's been embraced, and that you've won awards. Congratulations on that. You must be delighted with that.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it's been incredible. The whole result of the movie, the Goya Awards, the San Sebastian Prize for the best screenplay, has been great. I think it's just what they've done is a great work of art. I think very authentic and very original.
What was the kind of pitch to you when Paul came to you and said he was going to tell your story? I mean, were you hesitant at all beforehand, or were you quite open to the idea?
No, we were already on a journey trying to make this movie, and it didn't work out. And then there was a documentary that they did recently, a couple of years ago. The BBC did a documentary with Alan Gento, Follow Me in Cuba to rescue this building and so on. And so I think Paul saw that documentary. He thought that there was something there, worth telling. And then he got in touch with Andrea Calderwood, the producer. And then we met in a Pret-a-Manger. We had this discussion in fluent Spanish because he lived in Nicaragua briefly. And then we click, and then he was telling me the ideas, and I realized that this guy is a real artist, because he didn't want to tell the story of the book. He went beyond. He told the story of the man, and so until today. So it's basically me coming back with my company, choreographing the story of my life in dance. And so I understood that he wanted to do something really, really originally that nobody have done before, mixing real archive with fiction and actors with the real person. I mean, it's completely risky because he's trying to break the conventions, trying to bring something completely different and ambitions. And I really realized that, and so it was great.
It's been actually very beautiful from here in the UK, but we've been coming from opening the film in Spain, and in Germany it's still running. It'll be opening in France soon. We had an amazing screening in Havana, in the Karl Marx Cinema, with 1,400 Havanians.
Oh, wow. 5,400.
5,400. I'd
it's
say
like a football match.
Football match, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm not very good in Spanish either, so but it was 5,400 with several thousand outside. So it was a spectacular night, really. Yeah.
So
very nice.
It seems to be universal, and it seems to get people's emotions, and so it's very rewarding. Really is, and because you never take it for granted, you never know how is it gonna work. And he writes fantastic scenes, but then you think, okay, it's gonna work. Because there's lots of challenges in the film, this mix of dance and fiction. All this was a bet. So it seems that we have more or less succeeded. So it's fantastic.
I spoke to Carlos earlier, and he was saying how amazing he found your approach, that it wasn't just a kind of conventional biopic in many ways. I mean, for you as a writer, what kind of led you to this approach?
Well, I was very honest with Carlos, and I said, I don't know if I can do this, because I've always just made up the characters, or occasionally in some films they're historical and the characters are all dead. So I wasn't sure if I'd be able to find a way into it. So I spoke to Iciar. We wanted to work together on a project, and Iciar spent a lot of time in Cuba. She studied and she's worked there. So we went out to Havana, and we both saw Carlos's young dance company perform there. And these people are the Champions League of dancers, and when you're up close to them and you see them picking up a leg and putting their shin to their forehead with a cigarette in the other hand during a tea break, you just begin to realise these people are really very, very special. And if we can just capture some of this, and perhaps we could dance some of his life. So it came out of a discussion between me and Iciar whether we could try and find a different way to try and do this, because cinema is a strange beast. You've only got the 2 hours to play with, and oftentimes you have fantastic lives of very boring biopics because one interesting event after another doesn't work. You're hungry for relationships. But in this one, Carlos has a very strong relationship with his father, a very strong relationship with dance, a very strong relationship with his teacher, a very strong relationship with Cuba itself, and these became the spines for the film.
One of the things I loved about the movie was what you were talking about there, that it is slightly unconventional, because usually with biopics they tell the story from cradle to grave without the real person, or the person's passed away or whatever. But this gives it such a great kind of energy, in that you're there while the story's progressing, but you get to see all these amazing guys bringing you to life. I mean, was that strange, seeing those younger guys playing you?
Yeah. When I saw it, yeah. But they did a great. I mean, Edison, the boy. If you take a picture of me at that age and him, he looks like me. He's unbelievable. The resemblance. But for me, it wasn't dance. It wasn't acting as such because I was actually living my life. Which is terrible. I mean, it was quite sad, and I tried to always sort of cover it with a smile and try not to really show what it was in my head at the point, because the fact is that my parents are dead now, and I had a lot of regret. There's a lot of things that I would like to share with them, but I couldn't, and so that gave me a lot of grief. And during that shooting, it was evident, and once of those shots, I broke down terribly and I couldn't carry on. And so it's the whole process was a bit draining for me.
I can imagine it was very emotional, kind of seeing your real life dramatized in a way, but seeing it back. I mean, when you saw the whole thing put together, did it fill you with joy as well as kind of bringing up some pain? But it was told in such a beautiful way.
Yeah, but I didn't know what to be, where to be as a spectator. It was very difficult for me as a spectator when I first saw it. I was very in shock because I don't know how to relate to it, from the aspect of the dancer or the story of the spectator. I mean, it took me a while, a lot of viewings to actually remove myself from the movie and saw it as a product, an artistic piece out there, and just enjoy. So yeah, it was a big thing for me to relate to it in the beginning.
Is that a huge challenge for you both as filmmakers doing the biopic, in the sense that I can imagine, as you say, you have 2 hours to play with and you want to tell the character's story, but also you want to make sure that you include the right things? I mean, is it a case of you having to cut stuff back almost, that you focus in on just the moments that you picked?
Well, I think Paul did an amazing job summarizing what he thought was more, not representative, but was at the heart of Carlos's why is Carlos special? Because he comes from where it comes, because he has the childhood he had, that strong father. He's Cuban. He couldn't probably have learned ballet in any other place. A kid from a poor area like Carlos's neighborhood. So all that made Carlos special, and I think that was Paul's first choice, to go for the childhood and give it a very big space. And the other thing I think is very strong in the film is Carlos's family, because for him was important. But again, that makes the biopic a bit wider than just the life story of a person, because it's about Cuba, and it's about families in Cuba, it's about the people in Cuba. And then Carlos happened to go parallel with the last 40 years of the island, which have been amazing, the last 40 years from the 80s till now. And then Carlos is part of that new generation of Cubans which are doing things and that want to give back what they've been given. And then he has done his company there rather than probably here. He could have done it here, no? So to have all that made the biopic wider than just the life of a person. It make it more multi-layered, no? and richer. And it wasn't forced, because that is all about Carlos again. So it's beyond Carlos, and it goes back again to Carlos. So.
But you're right, though. You have to just pick little moments which give an indication of something much bigger. Because I mean, when you look at Cuba, the real elephant in the sitting room, of course, is his relationship with the United States. So you have a dance there with Smedley D. Butler. And people forget that, the United States has had an economic embargo against Cuba now for 60 years, coming up for 60 years. It's the longest embargo in modern history. And it's a kind of collective punishment against the island of Cuba. Now, we give a little hint of that. Now, it's Carlos's life, but he's caught up in the middle of it. There was tremendous economic poverty. There was went through a special period, which we show in the film and use real footage. So just giving little hints of all of these things tries to build up that multi-layered element that Iciar's talked about. There's
this great story, and then obviously there's The White Crow, which has just come out. These two great kind of stories of ballet artists and everything else. I mean, how important do you think it is for young audiences who perhaps might not go to the ballet or don't see it as something, that they embrace these stories? That it's important for the art form that these stories are told, and it brings a new light to it.
Oh, I think it's very important, that they go and see it, because I'm sure they're going to be hooked. But also, it's great for the world dance, and the world dance will do so much for them And so the message is like, this is great, and it might be that the next Nureyev, it could come from out of a small kid seeing these stories, and then they will shape the way for what they can become in the future, and maybe they'll be the next star, you know, in the future. So I think it's a good time for ballet.
And what are you hoping audiences take away from the movie? Because there's so much joy and passion in
inspiration. You know, I would like to for them to draw inspiration and the fact that yes, you could, you know, prevail in everything. You know, hard work will always prevail. You could become, you know, who you choose to if you really give a big shot. And wonderful things can happen. You know.
I guess for you as filmmakers, you hope that audiences in the UK or wherever go and see it, that they get both stories, that you get Carlos' story, but also you get the important kind of economic factors that you hope that, I guess, audiences become aware of if they're not aware of before.
Well, his family is steeped in at a certain time, in a place, an economic class. His father was a truck driver. He came from the outskirts of Havana. His father was actually born to a slave, so they came from a very humble background. The father himself went to work at the age of 9. So all these things mark a personality and mark a life, you know. And also I think perhaps mark Carlos today. This is why he's such a determined character, and also I think this is why he's so loved in Cuba. He's never forgotten his roots. He's actually a superstar in the world of dance, became one of the best known dancers in the world, but he's still got very humble roots and great love of his community, and people don't forget that.
He's a superstar in Cuba. He's great. The taxi drivers, everybody talks about. There is a word for someone like Carlos. He's an escapado. He's a runner. It's like he made it.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey, you guys!